Okay, I'm now recording, and hi everybody. It's Wednesday, September 26th, noon, for our launch into the final 2-week period. And I'm on the call with Johanna, who's in Copenhagen, right?
Yes, that's
and
right.
and and it's late at night there, so it's 9 p.m. But we were just talking about why Johanna's taking this course and what she's doing with it. And just to recap where we are real quickly, she's working to open a store. She's working with a partner who's a sommelier and very knowledgeable, and they're building a store in what's a highly restricted environment. A lot of people complain that doing business in the U.S., oh, the laws are so antiquated and so on. But we were just getting to that part in the discussion with Johanna. Sometimes people don't realize how restricted business is in France and so go ahead, Johanna. How does that all operate?
Yeah, I was going to say in Sweden it's a monopoly, so you cannot sell directly to private people. So my colleague who has, she's worked in Sweden for a while, she's sending to restaurants and events. But here in Denmark you can sell directly to private people, to consumers. But what I didn't know about Denmark, which I found out in a hard way, is that this is a farming community historically. So they're very concerned as when you start to handle food and drinks, or I don't know what you call it, but all the kind of administration in this society around food import and food selling, it's been very complicated. And they want to come and visit, wine tastings that we have to check on temperatures and things. And they want to see how we store things. And I'm saying wine you can store, if there's something you can store, it's wine, But it's we were quite surprised about the restrictions around food and drinks here in, it's not about the alcohol. It's more about, it is considered within food and drink kind of industry.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you do have the regulations, probably the permits and licenses to sell the alcohol, but you've got cheeses and probably olives and you're doing tastings and things like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So fundamentally, you're being held to the same requirements and permitting as a restaurant, fundamentally.
You could have different levels of this, but I put it, I said, we want to sell some, olive oil from the same castle as we're buying wine from Spain, and maybe we want to have some bread, but here and there. But then they say, we'll just keep it as clean as possible in the beginning. So focus on the wine to begin with, because otherwise I would get even more checks and at wine tastings and things like that. So we're focusing now on only selling wine. We might serve other things at the tasting, but I had no idea it was so strict. They keep calling and asking strange questions all the time, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't find this out until after they've actually gotten into it. And this will happen with tasting rooms. It happens with retail stores. You decide, wouldn't it be nice? We'll serve some cheeses. We'll put up little food bites. And then an inspector comes in and closes you down.
Yeah.
Because, I didn't know, we're just doing this. Well, so this is really great in this point of establishing a business plan, is knowing every single thing that you need to do to be able to run your business. And that actually brings up something I don't think I mentioned. There was a winery in Santa Cruz, California, and they decided they were going to have a party, a VIP party for people who were members of the wine club. And so from a business plan standpoint, again, remember, you're trying to attract and retain customers. One of the biggest problems with a wine club is making sure people stay on it for a long time, because you're usually up front maybe not even making, or you're losing money because you're giving things away and special discounts.
Yeah.
But then you need to engage and you need to keep things interesting. so this winery thought, well, that, why don't we have a harvest party? And they're down, near Silicon Valley and San Jose, and so there's a large population, and so they put out a promotion, come to the winery, we'll pick grapes in the morning, we'll have a stomping contest, you get to see the process. And when we have the wines, you get to say, oh, I was there, I was a part of this, right? And that sounds all innocent and fun, and
yeah,
why wouldn't you?
Lovely.
So they have their party, and they have the wine club members, and you could bring guests because you want to not only retain wine club members, but you want them to become your advertising, your word of mouth, your social media. Oh my word, pictures going on Instagram and being tweeted and Facebook and all these, Snapchat videos of the stomping contest. Oh, this is fabulous. That's great. And then they were visited by the Department of Human Resources, the DHS.
Oh.
And notified that they were being cited for violating employment laws.
Okay.
And they're like, what are you talking about? And say, well, normally who picks your grapes? Oh, well, we hand pick, we have workers come in and do that. All right, so these people are picking your grapes. Yeah, it's a party.
Of course.
Understood, but it's business, and you have these people picking your grapes. You need to provide them minimum wage. You need to provide insurance for them. You need to be permitted, and these are all illegal workers.
My God.
And they're going, no, it's a party. Well, no, you don't understand the law. And they fined them $115,000, and they went out of business as a result.
No. Oh my God. Okay, so that's another one then. HR we need to consider. No, no kids in the family working serving wine. No teenagers at events or things like that.
This is really funny. Okay. So I've been in the wine business for 50 years, 52 years.
Yeah.
I'm a master of wine. I'm pretty knowledgeable about things. I've worked in every level. I train, I consult all around the world. And I came to Oregon, and I went, a friend, I met somebody through friends of friends. They said, oh, we're doing this special wine tasting. Why don't you come and you can meet people and meet the community? I thought, great, it's at this really nice restaurant. And I go, and I said, I'll just sort of help out and pour wine and this and that. So I get there, and they said, do you have your license? And I said, what license? They said, your pouring license. I said, I've got my master of wine thing. They said, no, you have to apply and go through a training program with the state of Oregon.
Oh, really? To have a pouring license?
Pour wine in our restaurant. Oh. So I had to clear glasses and just hang out because I was not allowed to pour a glass of wine at a tasting, at a dinner, and at any kind of event without my license.
And how did you go about to get that? Was that like a training session, or was it a test, or was it?
It's an online hours of video, and then a test. And it's all about responsibility, licensing, what to do with people who are drinking too much, what your responsibilities are and your liability if you serve people too much and they go out and get in a wreck or something happens, and then the liability of the organization or company that you're pouring the wine for.
But anyways, somehow you understand it's quite responsible to do it that way. Yeah, I think we see also that because we have my colleague, she has teenage kids and they would like to help out at events and things like that. It doesn't really look good, you know. It's better if it's under, better.
It can put you out of business.
Yeah,
you could, and even more. So so many times they hold not only the business responsible, but the individual responsible also.
Yeah.
So many times people think, oh, well, you know, that affected my business. Well, they could end up taking your house, you've got it. Again, I've done a lot of business in Copenhagen many years ago, but a lot to think about.
Yeah.
And so, and again, this is why there's such a need for this understanding of wine businesses and the individual situations. Everybody, we kind of stay in our head about wine and the wine business, but boy, are there a lot of things to talk about. And did you see the workbook that we have also, and how you can use it for your business?
Yeah, for tasting rooms and wine clubs. Yes,
exactly. And inside of this is then virtually all of the things that you need to be thinking about in terms of salaries and extra ways that you might get revenue and doing events and everything else. So
yeah, it looks really good. Yeah.
If I can be of any help, or if anybody wants me to cover this in a little bit more detail between now and the end of the course, I would be glad to.
The video that you had up when you were away, right?
Yes.
Was a lot about this one. And there was a guy there who was doing this, right? Because it seemed like, were more students going into this, were they handing in assignments on the wine tasting room then, or?
There's nothing to hand in. It's just a resource, and I'll cover it in more detail if anyone in the class needs that.
I see.
So it's just it's more about just customizing the course to everybody's individual needs, and if you ever so if just send me a quick email and say, could you cover this in a little bit more depth?
Yeah.
And I'll do it. Okay, so I've opened up the new page for the final lesson for the next 2 weeks. And so again, if you log into the Napa Valley Wine Academy site, you'll see it down here, and this is what we're going to be doing for the next 2 weeks. It talks about, and I talked about on Monday, what you need to do to complete the course and get your certificate, and then kind of a list of some of the things that I'm really hoping that all of you got out of this course, including things like regulations.
Yeah. The boring part.
And then also this next 2 weeks and beyond, remember, you've got up to 4 weeks to finish your projects and turn them in. And that's because things happen with family or pets or health or work and whatever. So we just try to be very generous so that anybody who wants to complete and get their certificate, that we make that as easy as possible. But it's really a time to say, okay, now when I signed up for this course, I was hoping that you would cover this area or these topics, or I have something special that I'm trying to create. In most cases, if you've got just individual questions or things that you want answered, just put them on the Facebook forum. I'll go in there, I'll talk about them, or I'll talk about them, in one of the classes. But if there's something that you're really struggling with personal or business decisions that you're making, your career or business, let me know, and always glad to discuss that directly. And if you're in Copenhagen, we can set up an early morning for me and an evening for you, and do it via Skype. So there's no expense in those kind of things.
Super. Thank you.
So this is, here's what I don't want to hear. Wow, I didn't get anything out of this course. It didn't meet my expectations, but I was never on any of the live webinars, and I never reached out for a one-on-one conversation. There's just no excuse.
No.
Okay. That's not for you, Johanna. That's for everybody else.
No, I have a lot to digest. I'm not missing anything. On the contrary, I think having gone through a sommelier program and focused on those kind of topics, I think this is really, really good, and it puts light on a lot of things that I should have thought about before.
All right. So what we're going to do today is, so again, this is just mostly, but here's something I do want you to look at, Johanna. Is one of the topics is starting and operating a profitable tasting room. And think that's basic. You're going to have 50 wines. You're going to do tastings and events. So this should be very important.
Yeah, that would be spot on. Yes.
You might find, I don't know if they have these kind of resources in Denmark, but starting your business, this is from the TTB, and it actually goes through very thoroughly and says everything in the US that you would need to do, regulations and all that kind of stuff. And then by popular demand, there's actually people starting wineries, and here's a great contract. And anybody in the MW or higher WSET, this could be a very valuable read, because it really spells out all of the things that are considered in making a great purchase, how to make contingencies, what do you do if the fruit quality is below par, how do you get out of the contract, how do you if you want, or how do you keep it going as long as you want, those kind of things. So these are pretty good things for reading at this point. Okay?
Good, yeah.
Okie doke. So let's talk about perception. And I'm going to talk about tonight, and then today we're going to talk about perception, and then Monday I'm going to talk about wine with food.
Okay.
And the two kind of fit together, because actually, if you look at the data about perception, it actually obviates why wine and food pairing the way we do it actually is meaningless. Not to say things don't happen, not to say people don't have these great experiences, but if you're selling wine, if you're in the business, it's a very random method of thinking you know better what somebody should like, and that it's all happening in our imagination anyways. It's not reality. We're taught these things in sommelier courses, in culinary courses, and certainly in wine education.
Well, yes, I guess I think it's 30% of a sommelier exam is about, food pairing. So.
The sommelier exam?
Yeah, in Scandinavia, I think it's about 30%, if I remember my exam, for putting together a wine menu for the food, for answering questions with regards to food pairing. Yeah, I would estimate at least 25%, anyways.
And Sweden has a national culinary and beverage school. It's a university level program, and they actually teach my work in the Sweden National Hotel Restaurant School.
Is it a restaurant school? Okay, because this is Vinkällan dryckesutbildningar, who was doing the sommelier exam both in Sweden and Denmark. But okay, so the restaurant school has your business module.
Well, no, not my business. My approach to enjoying wine with
Okay.
food.
Okay.
And,
All right.
and ask your friend if she knows somebody by the name of Anders Herdenstam, HerdenStam. And Anders is a PhD in wine, language, and communication in Sweden, and is one of my greatest friends, and our family's great friends. He actually visited us here just recently in Bend. So.
Okay.
All right. So for many years, for a long time, I love words, but I'm also spend a lot of time looking at what words mean. And so as we talk about perception, there's a couple of different variations of what the word means. And of course, there's, I see this, I smell this. So it's that ability to taste, smell, see, hear, or touch something that makes us aware of something. All right, this is sensory perception. It's also, perception is also a state of being, or the process of becoming aware of something through the sense. Oh, I perceive a specific thing, I've become aware of it. And then and this is where it's important from a business standpoint, a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something, a mental impression. Okay? So when you're opening a wine store in Copenhagen, you want people to see the name of the store, to interpret it in a way that, oh, that's great, I love it, I love the people, I want to go there, and I want to buy things. We tend to think about perception like, Americans grew up on Coca-Cola, that's why they like sweet things, and that's how we perceive the American market. And by the way, that's all false. It's completely false, our perception that I just said, because the French always loved sweet wines.
Yeah, and what's wrong with sweet wines? I don't understand when that became wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. And that's actually in my book. It's a fascinating story of mistakes and of perception, and so that gets us then to, well, who's right? Where did that come from? And for this guy, it looks like a number 6, and he's right. It looks like a number 6. But this guy is equally as correct. It looks like a number 9. What are you, crazy? So perception is something that's entirely individual, based on context, based on environment. It's whatever is in your head and that you're experiencing, and how you interpret what you're experiencing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So what does wine represent to people? Okay. So this is another way of looking at perception, the organization, identification, interpretation of sensory information. And then I just found this one today. Each individual have different experience, or each individual have differences. Our culture, beliefs, knowledge. We should never judge a person, but analyze their perception, and revealing positive rather than negative information, collecting that information. And this is the heart of marketing.
Yeah.
Okay? Don't jump to conclusions. Don't make people feel stupid about what they like. Keep things on a positive basis, and then then you can create affinity and trust and so on. And wine we don't do that with wine. So here's the expert, and they get all these expert words, which are, by the way, only representational. They're illusions, they're metaphors. And then we tell people, oh, you should get that too, or you need to become more educated. You're too stupid to know what you like. And we just scare the hell out of everybody.
But isn't it true though that some people have like another vocabulary for their perceptions? I mean, you meet people. I remember one of my teachers at the sommelier education, he said that he had his daughters smell things like, you know, different flowers and fruits and nuts and everything when she was little, and then putting names on everything. And she's now winning many awards in Sweden and abroad as well in wine tasting. Not because she never tasted wine as a baby or a child, but she has a wide vocabulary and a palette of things to kind of, what's representing what she perceives. But that doesn't have anything to do with it, because he always gives her as an example for having this, you know, big vocabulary of taste and smell.
So a quick question then. That's an absolutely perfect question. So she has this special skill. If she's got this incredible ability to associate these words with these smells and so on.
Yeah, and blind tasting and things like that. Yeah.
And blind tasting and all that.
Yeah.
And she's professionally working to help somebody to choose a wine they like. And that person has none of those words, who smells the wine and smells none of those things. How does that in any way help to communicate? I argue it makes her worse at communicating.
Okay. Yeah, because she's not in somebody else's shoes. She is in her sommelier shoes.
That's right. And so what it does is she picks up the glass and all the other professional, oh, wow, she knows so many words and she's done this and this and that. But so what? If I don't think that way, if I don't have that magical power, how does that help me? Why should I care?
His argument is more that his argument is that we have all these kind of, we experience things, but maybe we don't have words to put on what we experience. I think that's his theory, you know. So try to get out there and get some more words for things, you know, smell things.
Well, actually, so I am actually proposing that makes it worse.
Really? Oh, okay.
And there was a study done. I can't get into the details too much because there's a lot of material to go. Yeah. But there was a study done in France, and they took experts trained in this lexicon, and they took all these words. They gave them a white wine and asked them which words they would use. They gave them a red wine and asked which words they were used. The words were completely different, and they were just talking about smell. Mm. The wines were identical. It was the white wine, and then the white wine colored red with odorless tannin and bitterness added.
Oh, no.
And all you had to do was see the difference in color. And the more expert people become, the more artificial the words become.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. No, there's a lot of, misperceptions there, I guess. Illusions.
And I'll get into illusions, and I'm going to get into also something even more important, which is genetics of perception. I'm not sure if this is going to play, but this is a famous actor in the US. This is Niles in a show called Frasier. And he and Frasier are trying to determine if a woman has below average intelligence and is actually psychologically unstable. Okay? Well, I don't know what happened there.
No, you just fell out. So, yeah.
Okay, it must be. Am I still recording? That's what I need to know. I guess we're still recording. Okay. All right. Well, let's go back in. I've got new internet hardware coming today also as I continue to. All right. We should be back. Let me see. And we're recording. Okay. So let me go back to this. So anyways, I'm not, let me show this real briefly. Let's see what happens.
Borderline. Was she ever delusional? Well, she often claims that she